Welcome, One Piece adventurers. It is I, Amaze the Storyteller, back at you with a brand new video, and today we're talking about Don Krieg. Specifically, what is he doing with Gin and Pearl at Hachinosu Island? Are they enforcers? Are they commanders to some level? Did they get a power boost? We're gonna go all over it today. We're gonna slobber all over that deliciousness that is the Beehive Island, and we're going to come up with some plausible explanations as to what the hell is going on. Because I have no idea. It's really cool that Oda's bringing back these characters we haven't seen for the better half of 20 years. It's just super cool. So, dude, I just want to get out of the way, man. Fucking Don Krieg, Gin. Anytime, if you guys don't remember, anytime there's a silhouette within the One Piece world, it is always Gin. It's always Shiki or Gin. Those are like two choices, right? And it's just amazing that we finally get to see them. We finally get to see them in a side panel. And obviously this is old news. This was from a few weeks ago, yada, whatever. They were still on Hachinosu. What are they doing there? Are they serving under Blackbeard? Are they Blackbeard pirates? Are they in the crossguild? Who the hell are they doing? What are they? I'm so exacerbated by this, I don't even know what to say. So I think it's very likely that Blackbeard contracted pirates that were in affiliation to Luffy in particular. Because remember, there's one key focal point that is missing out of the One Piece story currently, and that's the warlord system. There is no longer a warlord system. Now, why did this privateer system known as the warlord system even exist? Well, it was to maintain the balance of the world. Without it, the Seraphim were produced, and now we have a new pseudo 7 warlords that are more effective at policing pirates. It's really interesting because this was a real world concept. In the real life, countries would hire privateers, which were pirates, to fight against other pirates because that's how bad piracy was. The problem is that the skill level of the Navy elites wasn't up to par against the pirates in the Bay Areas. So they had to hire other pirates who knew the areas, who knew the tactics, who were just as dirty and gritty, who could go outside of the law and be arrested if need be under the sanction of the world government or that country's Navy fleet. So they had special permissions to do horrible things. In the One Piece world, it's no different, except this time they got rid of that and replaced them with Seraphim. What if Blackbeard understood that concept extremely well and decided in order for him to become a world government country, he needed his own military? And who better to command your Navy fleet than the Navy Fleet Admiral Don Krieg? Now, a little bit about Krieg's backstory. We actually see none of it. None of it. There's nothing there. There is no Krieg backstory whatsoever. Every single One Piece villain we get outside of the 4 originals, and out of those 4 originals, we only see 3, or excuse me, cut all this out, me. Listen, we don't see Don Krieg's backstory. It's very early One Piece. Right, we don't get Kuro's backstory, we don't get well, we do get Buggy's backstory, but we don't get Alvida's backstory. We don't know where Don Krieg, Kuro, or Alvida came from. We just don't. We know about Arlong, but we didn't know about Arlong until way later in the story. So Don Krieg is a total mystery. What if Don Krieg was a former captain or commodore of the Navy? Now remember, there's different hierarchies within Navy. There's different hierarchies within the Marines. You have Marine HQ, and then you have the normal Marines. I'm not saying Don Krieg was a Navy HQ Commodore, but he very well could have been. The dude was strong enough. Dude was incredibly strong, wielding a fucking 4-ton spear around like it was nothing. That might have been a mistranslation. That might have been like 4 kids or whatever, but he had a giant spear that he was able to swing around like it was nothing. He was able to pick up ships and throw them. He was incredibly powerful at the time he was released. What if he was a Commodore for the Navy? I could see it. Commodores don't necessarily have access to hockey yet. They're not experienced enough. So it would make sense because also as a Commodore, you get your own fleet, right? And so utilizing this knowledge from his time in the Navy, he could have actually been experienced enough to be his own admiral within the Blackbeard Pirates army. Now, the armada that Blackbeard has access to, he would need multiple commanders and multiple captains. The thing is that the 10 Titanic captains would oversee all of the pirates in general. And then you have smaller segments. You have maybe the Commodores of the Blackbeard Pirates. And this would be consisted of characters like Don Krieg, who are given their own armada to do as they please. And the thing is that when you're looking at a military tactical basis, this is like playing the game of Battleship. And who better to have than an actual Navy fleet admiral such as Don Krieg? Now again, when I say Commodore, I'm using our real world terms in order to translate for One Piece terms. When you're looking at real world terms, Commodore is essentially an admiral. They're the same thing. They run fleets. Admirals are above Commodores in that they are the fleet leaders. Commodores are the ones who guide the fleets into battle. You don't see admirals on the front lines, you see Commodores on the front lines during a Navy quibble, during an armada assault. Whoosh! We're getting there, guys. We're doing good. This is gonna be raw. I'm gonna raw dog this video. I just got off the phone with Duncan. He's like, dude, you need to fucking script shit. I was like, they can go to other people for that. They like the raw fucking attitude of me dicking down the One Piece world, and I'm not gonna slow down anytime soon, motherfuckers. But any hoochie nanny, so we're talking about Don Krieg being a fleet admiral for the Navy Blackbeard Pirates. Those were a lot of words. But it makes sense that Blackbeard would want individuals associated with Luffy because Luffy is now a Yonko. Anybody associated with Luffy's name is going to become a big-time pirate. We forget that because we're following Luffy within the series, but every single pirate Luffy faces or defeats will have a big name for fighting them. Right? It's like Gecko Moria and Kaido all over again. Gecko Moria got a big name for fighting Kaido. Gecko Moria was a big name before that, but so was Don Krieg, respectively. You have to remember that when we're looking at the scale of One Piece, we're so massive that it belittles all the characters that came before it. The thing about it is that Don Krieg was massively famous in the East Blue. He was incredibly famous in the East Blue, just like Navy HQ Lieutenant Fullbody was incredibly famous, right? It's just a larger scale now. These characters were relevant, famous, and extremely powerful back then. They still are, respectively. It's just, are they New World material? And I think Don Krieg could very well be New World material. He was just taken out by Mihawk. But to be fair, Mihawk might have been a Holy Knight. We don't know. Mihawk's incredibly powerful. And for Krieg's fleet to be taken out by Mihawk, I do not feel bad for Krieg. I understand completely. You ran into the wrong dude at the wrong time. That doesn't showcase Don Krieg's skill. Bounty doesn't reflect power level either. Don Krieg could take out a lot, and I mean a lot of individuals that have a higher bounty than himself. For example, Don Krieg could easily take on fucking Sarkis. And I honestly think Don Krieg could wipe the floor with Bellamy. You remember Bellamy? Spring fruit user? I think Don Krieg could beat the shit out of that guy. And especially Sarkis. What is Big Knife Sarkis gonna do to the golden-plated, majestic, Woots-armored fucking Don Krieg? Sarkis is not going to do a fucking thing. Sarkis is going to stand there with his dick in his hands while Don Krieg fucks him with a fist of justice. Golden fist of loveliness. And Sarkis is just going to take it because I can't do anything. There's nothing Sarkis can do. Right? But Sarkis has a 38 million berry bounty. Don Krieg had a 17 million berry bounty. Alright? Don Krieg could wipe the floor with Sarkis. You know, not a status of power level. It's just simply what they're worth to the world government. And Don Krieg, being from the East Blue or being in the East Blue, would not accomplish much with his armada. And going to the Grand Line, he got there for a couple of days and got absolutely handed by fucking Mihawk. So he didn't have time to get a bigger bounty from the world government. He just didn't. Now, him being part of the Blackbeard Pirates shows that Blackbeard's extremely knowledgeable about individuals who have great tactical prowess. Okay? Don Krieg had something like 3,000 to 8,000 ships under his command. That's easily 50,000 to 100,000 men, and Don Krieg knew how to manage those men. Now, he was somebody who ruled with fear and like with an ironclad fist, but he knew how to guide those men, he knew how to organize them, and he knew how to get them together under one unification. That's extremely difficult to do, and Don Krieg was the man to do that. And Blackbeard having that knowledge and understanding is like, shit, I could use this guy to essentially guide the fodder, to shepherd the fodder at whatever I need him to guide these dudes to. So, like, the thing is that Blackbeard can't be wasting energy policing Hachinosu. Alright? But Don Krieg can't. Don Krieg's whole purpose right now could be policing Hachinosu. Like, when the Navy attacked, what if it's Don Krieg's job to send out men so that he doesn't waste resources? Because the thing is, you don't want your men to be completely wiped out by the Navy. Like, if a vice admiral shows up, you don't want to keep sending fodder after fodder. No, you're going to say, okay, I need to send out Geen. I need to send out Pearl against this vice admiral to actually give the vice admiral trouble. Because your goal isn't to defeat the vice admiral if you're Don Krieg. The goal is to wear the vice admiral down until you can get there and finish him off. That's what it means to be a leader as a pirate. That's what it means to be a commodore or an admiral. You've got to throw things at something until the problem has completely disappeared. And Blackbeard understands this to a T. Blackbeard said, okay, Don Krieg knows how to manage an extremely large amount of men. He could probably manage the security system within Hachinosu. Another plausible explanation for why Don Krieg, Geen, and Pearl are there is because they're members of Crossguild, right? Crossguild's a pirate organization, but the thing is, and I did some thinking about this, I don't think they are part of Crossguild. I don't think you can be members of Crossguild and be on Hachinosu. And the reason I think that is because they're two separate Yonko. You're talking about Buggy and you're talking about Blackbeard. And I don't think they would be allowed to politically mix within the One Piece world. I don't think Hachinosu would be a place for Crossguild to, under any guise. They might, because they do have a massive payout. It'd be interesting. I'd want to see the logistics of that, because on one hand, it makes sense that they would be on Hachinosu. It's the pirate island. What better to supply the pirate island with than Crossguild members who are ready and hungry to eat? But on the other hand, you have the logistics and the political system of the four Yonko. Then you have the Yonko working in synergy. Because you had Big Mom working with Kaido, but they weren't working their separate countries together. It wasn't like Wano partnered with Whole Cake Island, and all of a sudden they were a unified nation. That's what essentially binding the Cross Guild with Hachinosu Island would be. Because Hachinosu is kind of an organization within itself, and Cross Guild's its own organization within itself. Either way, it'd be very cool to see, Don Krieg, Geen, and Pearl working as top tier Cross Guild agents. Now, why am I saying top tier? It's because they were relevant at one time. The nostalgia alone makes sense to me that they would come back as major players in the One Piece story. And that would be amazing. I would be super hyped if they were at least officers within the Cross Guild. If they're not, that's okay too, but I could definitely see them being formidable. Don Krieg was a formidable opponent. He hurt Luffy on multiple occasions. He had the poisonous gas, MH5, which was confirmed to be produced by Mads. Mads was the one who sold MH5 to the black market, and MH5 was then bought by Don Krieg from the black market. Now, what's interesting about Don Krieg is that he has all of these New World ties. Okay, for him to get a hold of MH5, he had to have known where the same black market was that Frankie knew to get the Atom Tree. The very same. So Don Krieg has a lot more connections than it seems. And Oda just probably threw this in there just to, So Oda probably threw a little bit of tidbit in there at some point just to make it make sense. But I do think it's really interesting that all this shit's connected. Don Krieg being affiliated with the black market to get MH5 means that Don Krieg has New World connections. Okay? That's why he was going to the Grand Line, was to do more black market dealings. Because again, Don Krieg, even though he's in the East Blue, pre-time skip, he's got one of the largest armadas in the entire series. I don't think we've seen an armada as big as Don Krieg's up until Luffy gets the Grand Fleet. I don't think it happens. Anyway, let me recollect my thoughts. So to summarize, it's really interesting that Don Krieg, Geen, and Pearl are on Hachinosu Island. They could be Cross Guild members. They could be fucking Hachinosu security forces. It's really cool that they're there. And obviously, I'm not saying anything new that other YouTubers aren't saying. However, this is going to be new. I think Don Krieg is going to be a tie-in to introducing the black market forces that end up being the heads of security for Hachinosu. Because if you're going to create a nation, if you're Blackbeard and you're going to create a nation, what better way to do it than to have the entirety of the black market on your side, right? That's what makes sense to me. If you have the black market, you can now run the underground and you can run above ground. And you now, being a fully fledged nation, get the capital from both to eventually destroy the world. This is essentially how the United States runs. The United States has been known to deal in underground organizations, obviously to shut down those organizations, but to also build up its own nation through the underground means. Blackbeard would be no different. I know it's a really weird comparison. Listen, take it with a grain of salt. But Blackbeard is very maniacal and is a super genius. And him utilizing Don Krieg shows that he understands what it means for an individual to run a giant pirate armada. Another thing, I mentioned this earlier, it's really important for you guys to understand that Luffy is now a Yonko. If he defeats or even has contact to a pirate, that pirate now becomes one of the most famous pirates in the world. So Luffy defeating Kuro and that information getting out, Kuro all of a sudden was a 16 million berry pirate, becomes a fucking 180 million berry pirate. It just happens like that. They skyrocket in infamy because they're associated. That's kind of how the warlords get so infamous, right? Crocodile had his run-in with Whitebeard. Crocodile gets infamous. Fucking Moria had his run-in with Kaido, gets infamous. Mihawk has his relationship with Shanks, gets infamous. Boa Hancock has her fucking connections with fucking Rayleigh, who was above Yonko, right? So you have relationships with the Yonko, you now become an infamous pirate. Don Krieg had relationships with Luffy, is now an infamous pirate. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know your thoughts on Don Krieg coming back. Is he going to be the security forces for Hachinosu Island? Is he going to be anybody of relevance, or is he just a cameo, much like Roshio on Egghead Island? Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!